Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Hey, first things first, we want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. Always good to have you with us. Always good to have Brint with us, too. Brint Wahlberg, the Wahlberg team, Windermere Real Estate, and Diane Beck from Windermere Real Estate, our host, said, Brint, come on in. We got to have some numbers updates here. How you doing?
I'm good, Danny. How are you?
Oh, great. The current state of the coronavirus and the Missoula housing market in your 29-minute presentation on the relationship between the two. Go.
Oh, just go. Okay.
I'm going to go get a cup of coffee.
You're going to get some coffee. We're just going to talk. Well, happy to be here, of course, Diane, as always. I think her loyal listeners know I'm the numbers guy.
Right.
So a couple things here. So we've got the Missoula Organization of Realtors released their housing report about two and a half weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
We delayed the report because we were going to have an in-person press conference, but then as coronavirus came out, so we shelved it for a while, but it's up now. So
Is that what you normally do? You conduct a press conference?
We normally have a press conference where we rent a conference space and have have about 100 people or so. And what we found interestingly, though, and you can find this on the Missoula Organization of Realtors Facebook page, is we did a live webcast.
Gotcha.
Where we presented this whole report, and we had thousands of views and interactions. So actually, our reach was much more broad this time. So I don't know, it might be something where we could continue to do this moving forward. So. Yeah. So housing report's out. So what is the housing report? It's not just we call it the housing, but it's all things housing. So it's land sales, it's real estate sales, it's rentals, it's homelessness, it's economic data, it's financing information, it's foreclosure information, and then we take every single point of data and we put it into what we call a housing affordability index. And it's kind of an index that takes a look at Missoula's your median incomes, your property taxes, your price of homes, the rent, the rates for mortgages at the time, and kind of mashes it all together and looks at Missoula on a scale of affordability.
Wow. So this is part one. Are you on for the next 3 or 4 weeks? It sounds like that's about what it would take.
And the report actually takes about 3 months to put together. So we start meeting in December. We kind of compile everything. And then January, we put all our data together. And then February and March, we kind of get it to look to the big, beautiful report that it is that you can find. So you can find it on MissoulaRealEstate.com, which is the Missoula Organization of Realtors webpage. And then there's a button that's just market trends, and there's the annual housing report. So the questions that a lot of people ask out of it, what happened last year? And I know right now, so we're into late May, and of course there's a lot of what's going on now type topics. So I'll share a little bit from the housing report, and then we can move into where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So what we saw at the year's end was the median sales price for a house in Missoula was $315,000. So that is an 8.6% increase over the year before. That's the largest single year increase we've had since I've been a part of this report and since our recovery from the Great Recession and the housing bubble. So the amount of homes sold in Missoula is 1,504. So that's a little increase over the year before. It's not the most we've had. We had a little more in 2018. But what we've seen is Missoula's market has had a very strong potential to sell more homes. But like a lot of areas, we have a supply issue where there's a lot of people that wanted to buy in 2019 and carrying forward to 2020, but there's just isn't much for them to buy. So sales were strong, could have been stronger, but and that's one of the big reasons why we saw such a big jump in median sales prices. I've talked about this before. Supply and demand, what we've seen in our market, and our housing report showed this once again, is that people were paying practically near record rates of full price to above over asking for homes across all price points in our market. It showed we maintained to have this kind of hyper competitive real estate market, multiple bids, multiple offers going up over asking price, very competitive situations, homes usually selling within a couple of days. So a highly competitive market usually leads to a very rapid rise in prices because this home is listed at 300 and it sells for 305. The neighbor comes out at 305, sells for 310.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. It's like it jumps up very quickly. So another big sign as to why our median sales price keeps going up so fast. It's a lack of options. And then when a qualified buyer comes in and gets in a competitive situation, they bid the house up fast, and you set a new benchmark, and away you go.
There it is. And, of course, as a realtor, you live this every day. You knew that, supply and demand. You knew that going into the latest report. But was there anything else about that high percentage increase in the 315K number besides what you've already talked about? Is that what you would have anticipated?
We had an 8% increase the year before, so I was expecting a big gain. One of the things that kind of has helped that came out of this last report was that average wages in Missoula went up 4.2%, where in years before in our report it was only going up 1% or 2%. So wage increase in Missoula took a big jump last year. So that helped. Missoula's average wages last year was just about $56,600. So,
is that a family?
Yeah, I believe it's a two-person household.
Okay, gotcha.
If my memory serves correct. So it was kind of one thing where rising house prices. The good side was the economic data when it came to incomes and things like that in our area also went up as well too. And when we put that into our housing affordability index, it actually made our affordability index very ever so slightly improve a little bit because of the way incomes have gone up and how rates have stayed flat. So the thing that surprised me the most in the report was when I saw median sales price was 315, lack of supply again, I thought affordability was going to take another big tumble down. And what we actually saw was effectively it stayed pretty flat. And so what does affordability mean in Missoula? Well, our index has shown continually, and it's really always been this case, is that when you look at area incomes versus housing prices, Missoula is a generally unaffordable market. And it always has been, and of course trends continue to show it will be for moving forward. Now, our one nice new addition that we did put in our report was the amount of assistance, down payment, and other types of programs that we have in there. And I think it's a lot of resources that people didn't even realize they either qualified for or knew existed. So there's a lot of things to kind of help people make up those gaps and help people get into home ownership. And then the further thing that we really like to break down in this report was there's different areas of opportunity within Missoula's market. And so I know, like, one of the things we saw was with, I believe, new construction, a newly built home in Missoula, median sales price last year was $410,000. Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
A new built townhome was $282,305. So when people are looking at affordability and entry level, there's places where opportunities where you can get your foot in the door, have ownership in this market, get in with the value gains that people are continuing to see. And if it's going to be a townhome, if it's going to be in a new development with a smaller yard or something like that, you kind of you get going.
Right.
And so it's kind of one of these things where there's a lot of interesting points of opportunity for people that want to get into the housing market, but are a little afraid when you look at median prices and hyper competitive activity and things like that. So there were some really good signs that I saw in this report.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up right there because that'll lead into my next question. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Brint Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere. Brent, a little more as far as popularity, are there any particular areas of the community or types of homes being sold that stood out to you at all?
Yeah. So what we did notice, both condominiums and townhomes equated for about 20% of the market data.
Yeah. Of course, some of that might be because of the price differential.
Price
right?
differential.
Yeah, a little compromise, maybe.
Interestingly, though, the median sales price of a condo last year was something along the lines of $380,000 because what's popular for condos in Missoula is high end.
Yeah. Okay.
New condos.
Okay.
So, what we've popular, definitely areas, Missoula's, what do you call it? The 700-pound gorilla or whatever is the Mullen Road and Expressway corridor. So the west end of town.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about it, where can we grow right now? And it's Mullen Road and Expressway because you have city water, you have city sewer, and a lot of open space to develop into. So that area had by far the most amount of sales activity, and especially I think if you took all of the sales in the Rattlesnake, the University District, and then kind of the surrounding areas in the downtown north side, Mullen Road and Expressway sold more houses than all of the Rattlesnake U District, downtown north side did last year. So continues to be the big popular area of growth. Then on the flip side of things, some more just kind of interesting activity. What we'd seen in previous years was the top 3 sales volume neighborhoods were always usually the 3 that had the lowest median sales price. Basically, people trying to get into more affordable areas. Be South Hills, Central Missoula, and the Mullen Road Expressway type area like that. What we saw this year was Miller Creek, Linda Vista, was actually had the 3rd highest amount of sales data for a neighborhood. And it also was the 3rd highest median sales price. So what it showed was we actually saw neighborhoods with new construction, some high-end new construction as well too, were real appealing to move-up buyers. So we saw a lot of that kind of move-up, cross-town, cross-state type activity with people upgrading homes, going to new construction, and also, of course, so just kind of some of this activity that we see. It was a little fascinating to just see that an area which previously we'd said, well, Miller Creek, it's become a real high dollar place. It's slower activity. Suddenly it was the 3rd most amount of sales volume last year. So kind of a fascinating thing, that another point in our data that I didn't expect to see that was a little surprising.
When you have an average number, in my head, it means that there's a lot of numbers above and below that number. Mm-hmm. Just throwing out figures here. If you have a $200,000 and a $400,000 sale, your average is $300K. Are there some great big spikes above and below that $315,000 number that are helping create that average, or are there lots of transactions that are nestled right in around that number?
Yeah, so we use median. So basically, you line it up from lowest to highest and grab the dead center number. Mm-hmm. And what we found is sometimes average can tend to skew and get a little funny because suddenly. And of course, it's a small sample set, but if you have 2 homes that sold for $400,000 and one that sold for $1 million, your average is not going to be reflective. Now, that's a very small sample. So, but what we've noticed, and when we pull apart all of Missoula's price points, generally speaking, $500,000 and under has remained to be a very healthy market, and even moving forward into 2020, north of $500,000, it tends to get a little bit more. It gets slower. You actually have a lot of supply and not a lot of sales activity. So we have a few points where you'll hit these, $1 million plus homes. You see these kind of things, but in terms of market impact and market influence, it's actually a lot more minimal than people think it is.
You brought up the figure. I think you said 1,504 homes sold in the Missoula area. How have the last couple months affected the number of transactions? Are you seeing any trends that, I don't know, maybe good or bad news for, well, just say the 3rd quarter of 2020?
So we move forward to 2020. And, of course, the fascinating thing was the first 2 months of 2020 was outpacing 2019 impressively. Mm-hmm. Of course, the first 2 months of 2019, we were in a government shutdown. So we also had some things going on that was also hindering a little bit of financing activity, where this 2020, we had a temperate winter. So we weren't buried under snow, and February was a great month. March hits, coronavirus becomes a reality, things start slowing down. Where we were at, and I pulled these numbers as of yesterday, so far year to date in Missoula, 432 residential sales. Same point last year, 410.
Wow, and that is from January
to May 19th.
Okay, all right, so very, very up to date.
So we are still 22 homes ahead of pace as to where we were last year. So a lot of it, April was definitely down compared to April of last year. And we're not all the way through May, but May is going to be down as well, too, just because market activity definitely slowed down. And we put this in our housing report. We shared some extra slides on it. It's not in the PDF version you find online, but you'll find it in the video. So what the Missoula organization Realtors, what we wanted to do was look at a couple of indicators. New listings, time on market of existing listings and supply, and then this original list to final sales price, just to see how competitive the market remains. And what is happening right now, March, April, May, and we're moving it forward too, compared to what happened the last 2 years. So 19 and 18, what I would call boom years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back and we looked at, okay, what was also happening in 2013 and 2014? Because 13 and 14 were recovery years. So Missoula was really punched by the housing bubble in 8, 9, 10, 11. And then kind of 12 and 13, 14 was where we recovered. One other point that we looked at then was what was going on in 2011 and 2012. So are some of these market stats mimicking a boom market, a recovery market, or a recessionary market? As of 3 weeks ago, which is the most recent data pull, because we're kind of trying to pull it on a monthly basis. As of 3 weeks ago, so far, most of the market indicators, it was still following boom market trends. Time on market, original list to final sales. The only thing that we did notice as of 3 weeks ago was new listings, especially we have, it's kind of a fancy little chart because we impose the amount of confirmed cases of coronavirus in Missoula compared to new listings, and where you see the rise. And especially as Missoula was under quite a bit of its shutdown, new listings slowed tremendously. Of course, we got into phase one a couple weeks ago now, right? And suddenly, boom, away we go.
Wow.
And what you notice is new listings has caught up rapidly. And so in terms of the scope of just looking at numbers from Missoula's real estate, new listing activity, spring market activity is right now playing catch up, because what a spring market for Western Montana, most of Montana is March, April, May is when people come to town and plan summer purchases and things like that. A lot of the out-of-state activity completely stopped because of travel orders and quarantine orders and things like that. Well, so now what we saw was as things loosened, of course, we've got phase two coming up in about 10 days.
June 1st, yeah.
And
as of airtime, as of the time that you and I are recording this show, the day leading up to Memorial Day weekend, 14-day quarantine among the things that are supposed to be lifted in phase two, June 1st. Correct.
So now what we're seeing is these people that postponed April and May purchasing trips are going to be here in June and July.
Yeah.
And, of course, a lot coming from states that are also reopening as well, too. So what we are – and of course, sellers working with agents that are monitoring this, paying attention to this data, watching what's going on, they're getting ready. And so houses are getting listed. Activity is really picking up fast. And so what we're noticing is a big uptick of new listings, available options, and in turn, sales activity. I pulled the multiple listing service this morning. There's 231 homes under contract in Missoula right now. And there's only 199 active listings. So there is more homes under contract with an offer on them than there are available to buy right now.
Wow.
So Missoula's real estate market took a pause during the stay-at-home order, but the indicators that we see in terms of statistical data show this summer, it's like it took a pause, it took a slowdown. It's like a lot of us, it kind of went home. It took a break for a while to be safe. And now as we're opening back up, it's coming right back online.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Brint Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. It sure doesn't sound like it, Brint, but I'll ask it anyway. Are buyers more skittish, do you think, than they might have been a few months ago because of concerns about the stability of their jobs? And I guess hand in hand with that, I'll ask the question, do you think buyers are somewhat more willing to take a risk motivated by the current interest rates?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So in some cases, yes, some buyers are skittish. Some buyers have just completely quit the market either out of necessity or just, I like where I'm at. I want to see what the future holds. I'm going to stay where I'm at. And of course, what's interesting is during this slowdown that we have seen with this rapid recessionary activity is I can think back, and Diane can attest this too, as a practitioner during all of the housing bubble, people would just have to quit the market because they didn't have jobs, couldn't afford their home, the financing programs weren't there, interest rates were a little higher. It's just there was a whole lot of things that just kind of continually marched on. Whereas the conversations that a lot of us are having right now is, I'm going to wait and see, because it's people that still are qualified, still are interested, still want to do something, but they're going to give it the summer. They're going to wait till the fall. They're going to do something like that. Rates and programs are still very attainable and very good. And in fact, the National Association of Realtors predicts that rates might still continue to go down. So it's not like something where it's tough to look. I failed crystal ball, so it's tough to say, but I don't think we're going to wake up October 1st and suddenly rates are going to be 6 or 7%. And so people's ability to purchase down the road remains strong. And so definitely there's concerns. I would say what I have noticed continually, even in these last 7, 8 years of growth, is that most people in our market today still remember what the housing bubble did. And so I see a lot of still buyers that are just very smart and pragmatic about their purchase. Even if they're in a competitive bidding situation and bid a house up, they're still not maxing out their loan approval amount or going out to a range of an uncomfortable payment. And I still see a lot of stuff like this. And it's very encouraging when I see people purchasing in our market is, I'm approved to X, but I'm only going to buy to Y. This is my ceiling. And I think back to the early 2000s, and it was a very different conversation quite a bit. Well, I'm approved here, but I want to get higher. I need to get more. So I think we definitely are seeing situations with buyers reaching up a little bit, but I'm just not seeing a lot of people that are saying, I'm going to take a risk, I'm going to take a gamble. But the fascinating thing, too, is, and this is another big point out of the National Association of Realtors, they've been tracking housing supply. And, of course, I talk about this all the time. Low supply, prices keep going up. Nationally, the housing supply level finally got back to normal in February. And then as soon as everything shut down, people started taking houses off the market. Supply level dropped way back down again. Right. So what's going to happen is for people that continue to sit on the fence, barring some more incredibly disastrous economic impacts, housing prices, if supply stays tight, housing prices are going to continue to go up.
Sure.
The National Association is predicting a little bit more of a flat plateau, like 1% to 4% value gains nationally, not for Missoula, but nationally. But they're still predicting values are going to keep marching up. And so if that's the case, and if we see the rapid recovery, like a lot of people are also projecting as well too, people that sit on the fence and it's like, I'm going to wait till 2021, 2022, you could be jumping into a market price where your medians are 330, 340, 350 or higher. So, and if the rates are still low and the job sustains it, great. Obviously you never want to overstretch yourself to get into a home. But if it's something like we're good agents like Diane and myself, we're just educating our buyers about what's going on in the market, programs and rates that are available now. If you can make a smart purchase this summer, this fall, I would strongly consider it, because a lot of the economic data and trends information is suggesting a big bounce back. And of course, what's going to follow that is going to be house prices. So getting into a home and seeing a good equity gain, you're going to be in good shape.
Again, that leads to my next question. You must be looking at my notes over there. I don't remember giving you a copy of these, but before I get to that, Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And I want to thank some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today every weekend on News Talk KGVO. Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. We are talking with Brint Wahlberg from Windermere. So Brent, moving forward, what advice would you give to sellers? Would you give to homeowners who want to list with you? Do you see a time where you might have to manage their expectations differently? I mean, based on some of the numbers you've been giving out, it really doesn't sound like it, but we're still in a very unpredictable world right now.
Yeah, we're in an unpredictable world. So what I've been, and as both Diane and myself have been working with our seller clients through this spring so far, is plan ahead, be prepared for a little bit more uncertainty on your buyer side. Of course, we see some lending rules tend to change a little bit here and there, especially when things get a little weird. But if generally speaking, in the Missoula area, if you have a house $500,000 or less, you're still in a seller's market. And so, can you move up still? Can you make some strategic moves and get maximum equity for your house and negotiate well on another? There's a strong chance to, but talk to your agent in advance.
Okay.
And build a plan, and an agent that can monitor market activity, supply, demand, what's going on in your neighborhood and your price points, is going to be an agent that's going to really help you. And especially when you look at where you want to go. Because if you can go to a place where you can negotiate down and get a good purchase, and then, in fact, I've got a client, we've done this just currently, where we negotiated a house down by about 5%, and we got them actually about 3.5% over ask on their own home, and we were able to build in safeguards to make sure that they never had to deal with that panic of, if I sell my home and I can't buy anything, I might be homeless. So we built this whole plan, and everything is working really well so far. I should knock on wood. There's wood under the table.
That's right? A win-win so far, isn't it?
So this is the time where expert agents like myself, like Diane, can help navigate people that want to make a move up, because it's a scary market to think about moving up, because if you can sell your house right away, but you don't know where you're going to go, it's kind of it's a chicken before the egg kind of thing. So agents like us help people with this all the time.
Yeah. And
so knowing market data, knowing what's going on in your area, and attending to all the regular things, because buyers still want a house that is in as best repair as possible, shows nice, smells nice, looks nice.
You brought this up early in the show about buying trends, and we've spent some time with guests from Missoula Public Works and the Chamber of Commerce in the past month with updates and perceptions of the Mullen Area Master Plan. What's your take on that right now? Do you see it progressing at an acceptable rate in relation to the demand for housing in Missoula right now? A realtor will go, no, you can never go too fast on those things.
Build. No. So I live out Mullen Road. I live in 44 Ranch. So I'm one of the neighborhoods. I'm surrounded by cow pasture. That is all, I believe, been sold and is poised for development. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it in quite a few ways, because I talk supply all the time. And one of the things too, like a lot of people say, of course, like last year, 8.6% median sales price gain. Like that's not sustainable for a community like ours, unless if our wages are matching. And well, they went up 4%. So no, it's not matching. Right. And I've said this before, is that Missoula, especially on an affordable-ish level, if I could just say, like, generally speaking, 400,000 and under, you just don't have a lot of new construction to measure resales against. And so what happens is, I think I've said this on the show before, this is like you're trying to buy a car and there's no new cars. So the used car lots, they're selling for overbooked, because it's your only choice. It's all you've got.
Yeah. And
so if these developments, subdivisions that we're going to be seeing in the years ahead, out Mullen Road especially, because it's where the space is, are able to provide new options for people, where it's like, I can spend $400,000 for a brand new home out here, let's say a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, double car garage, or I can buy a 60s built in the middle of town that's going to be the same price. People are going to be able to kind of have that check and balance to weigh against, and so I think it'll help affordability. It'll increase options. And the thing I like with the master plan too is it's adding connectors, it's adding streets, it's adding infrastructure, it's adding a lot of things like that as well too. So it's something where it should, hopefully Reserve Street will not become just even worse than most of us Missoulians think it is now.
Yeah.
But it'll allow for a lot more housing, a lot more opportunities. I think you go back to the real estate bubble years, and Pleasant View, which is the big neighborhood behind Home Depot, right next to Hellgate Elementary, and then Windsor Park and Canyon Creek, the two out by the airport up against the interstate. Those were affordable new construction neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods did not slow down at all, because in ups and downs and lefts and rights, those type of entry-level type houses are always appealing. And there are townhomes, there's condos, there's small homes, and there's even some 2-story homes and single-level homes. If you can continue to do that kind of stuff, it'll be great for our market. It'll really boost our home ownership too. So I say the quicker the better.
Missoula Real Estate Today has been presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest has been Brint Wahlberg from the Wahlberg team at Windermere. I feel like we just scratched the surface. Can I get you to drop back in soon?
Oh, yeah. I'm always happy to be around. I'm 2 blocks down. Just come grab me.
Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. Contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com. or visit our website, homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.